So my grandma used to crochet a lot when she was younger. She even tried to teach me when I was a kid, but I was somehow not able to figure out how to do it. I don't know, I didn't have the patience for it, I guess. But I have figured out how to do it now. And since my grandma's hands and eyes don't really work like they used to, she hasn't done any kind of fiber arts in the last few years and had all of her supplies just sitting in the back of a closet. But now that I've crocheted and knitted for a little bit, she's decided to gift all of her old supplies to me, so they find good use. And now I am the proud owner of crazy amounts of crochet thread, probably more than I can use up in a lifetime, and an insane amount of knitting needles that are still tangled somewhere in a box because I have not figured out a better way to store them. And also some of these cute little magazines. They look like this, and I guess you were able to buy them at grocery stores. Maybe you still can, actually. I never look at the magazine section there. I don't know how old they are. It doesn't say a year. I've been trying to figure it out. I could probably, maybe they have like a website or something where I could see when this was made. It has the old currency on it, so I know it's before 2002, before we had euro, but I'm not quite sure when exactly. Anyways, it has lots of these cool filet crochet patterns in it, and since everybody's doing filet crochet right now and it looks really cool, I've decided I also want to do one, this one specifically, and Easter's coming up, so I was thinking I could give it as an Easter gift to my grandma, because I don't know, it would be nice to gift something to her I made with the supplies she gave to me. So I've started this one. I am like 50% confident I can figure this out. I think I'm able to kind of read the pattern now. It is a little bit complicated. It does have this like chart down there, but it only shows an eighth of the doily, and then you're supposed to flip it in your head to get to a fourth, and then you're supposed to repeat it 4 times. So we'll see how I do with that. I have already started the first try and abandoned it because, well, the first row is fine because that's still written down, but the chart is confusing to read to me because I don't know, like, if I actually follow the instructions to essentially do this 8 times, then it doesn't really make sense in real life, and it also doesn't look like a picture. I feel like one of these symbols I have to do, like, it's just the corner, so I don't have to repeat it. I just do it once. So I don't know, I technically do this 6 times, not 8 times. So I think that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm gonna try it and we're gonna see if this actually turns out like something. Also, if this is gonna be a lot of work, I'm pretty sure, so I'm a bit afraid that I won't be able to finish it before Easter, because for some reason I just thought of this. And obviously I immediately had to start, even though I have like 7 other projects on my needles and it is 11 o'clock at night. But we'll see how it goes, I guess. Let's try this. Okay, so this is the first round. I decided I'm done with it. It's technically not hard. It's not harder than a granny square. There's no like advanced techniques involved in it, but I guess my problem is that it doesn't tell me which stitches to put into which stitches of the previous row. So it doesn't tell me what to crochet into. I don't know, maybe I'm like too stupid to read it or something, but I can't see where it would tell me that. So I kind of have to look at the picture of the finished object to figure out which stitch is supposed to be in the double crochet of the previous round and which stitch is supposed to be like in the hole that's created by the chains. So I think this is what is in the picture. It is kind of also what is in the chart, but it's kind of like freestyle what is in the chart. I think this should be possible to complete. We'll see. I'll try round 2. So I realized I never explained what filet crochet was, so I'm going to do that while I keep crocheting. Basically, for filet crochet, you create a pattern with empty and filled boxes, you could say. So you make little boxes by, well, doing a double crochet and then 2 chains for the empty boxes and just 3 double crochets for the filled boxes. And then when you kind of step away, you can see a pattern, and that is exactly what I'm doing here. It is surprisingly easy to do. I don't know, I didn't like anticipate it being hard, but it looks so intricate, so I was kind of, I don't know, thinking it would like take very long and be very fiddly and annoying, and you know, you would get confused reading the chart, stuff like that. But it's actually not like that at all, since this pattern specifically is just a giant granny square. Okay, it's not giant yet, but it keeps growing every round. So because of that, you just need to remember what you're gonna do for this specific round, and then you do that on 4 sides. And the corner stitch is always the same, so essentially you just remember where the filled boxes go, and it's quite easy to figure out if you also have the row underneath where you can see which boxes you filled there. So you just, well, I just kind of go off of that. This is what it looks like right now. I never really showed it, and there has been some frogging back and starting over already. First of all, because as I realized on the train after that clip you just saw, probably, I had miscounted, so I was getting kind of confused because my doily wasn't laying flat on the table, and it still doesn't, and that's normal to some extent. With these doilies, I've made 1 or 2 of them before, and they never really lay flat before blocking, so I wasn't too worried about it at first, but then I thought maybe I should count, just to be sure. And then I counted and I realized I was off by a stitch on one side because I had forgotten to crochet into one of the corner stitches on like 1 round, 5 rounds back. So I really saw no way of fixing that other than frogging back, so that's what I did, and I spent the entire time on the train that I was planning to spend crocheting just frogging and rewinding my yarn. So that was not that fun, but it was fine. I kept going, and I think I haven't had any major counting issues since then, because now every round I make sure I did all of the stitches. This pattern was written to be crocheted with a very thin thread of, I think, 550 meters in length for 50 grams. Let me check. Yes, 550 meters on 50 grams, which even for a crochet thread is very little, and they're using a 0.75 to 1 millimeter crochet hook to work it. I was just using stuff from my stash, so I did not have such a thin thread, and I especially wanted to use one I have a lot of because I knew this was going to be quite big. So I just used a random one that I have like 3 kind of full balls off of. I don't know. As I said, none of this is labeled, so I'm just guessing really. I'm crocheting this on a 2.5mm hook, so that is quite a bit bigger than what the pattern recommends, and therefore I also think that this thread is quite a bit shorter than what the pattern recommends for the thread. And that means that my finished object most likely will be quite a bit bigger than what the pattern says. So according to the pattern, the finished object is supposed to be 64 centimeters in circumference. No, in diameter, not in circumference. Why would you measure the circumference? So 64 centimeters in diameter, and I'm assuming this will be quite a bit bigger. And also, I seem to have trouble estimating how much crochet thread I need. That's the first problem. I already started doing a mesh pullover with a crochet thread that I had, and I vastly underestimated how much of it I would need. And as you can see, I'm almost out of my first ball of it. And the second problem is that I don't know how long I will need to make this, because I intend to give this as an Easter gift, and that is in, oh wow, like 14 days? So I have 2 weeks left, which I'm pretty fast with making stuff, because I don't know, I don't have any other hobbies apparently, so this is what I mostly do when I have nothing else to do. So it usually doesn't take me very long to complete an item, but this gets bigger with every round. Like, you add a stitch on like both sides of one side of the square every round, so 8 every round in total. And the rounds are taking quite long already, like a lot longer than in the beginning, obviously, and I still had so many increases to go, so I got a bit worried that I wasn't going to be able to finish it, and especially that I wasn't going to be able to finish it with the amount of crochet thread that I have. So I didn't really want to buy more, and what I decided to do then was that I used the chart that came with the pattern, and I kind of put it into an Excel sheet, or at least the parts that I had already crocheted, and then I omitted parts of the pattern essentially, because I don't know how I can show this the best, but basically I had started here and I had knitted until like here, and then I just left most of this part out and continued the pattern here, and I just made my own chart, kind of basing it off of the chart here and like using elements of that design, but only some, so I could make the whole doily a little bit smaller. And that way I was able to eliminate quite a few of the increases and just a little bit of, you know, length. So I'm hoping that in the end I will have enough thread to make it, that I will have enough time to make it, and that the design I now planned out works out in a way where it still looks good. I'm keeping all of the main design features. I'm just looking at my chart now instead of this one. But yeah, it's really fun to make. I don't know, I haven't crocheted in such a long time, to be honest, but I'm really happy to be back crocheting. Wait a second, I have to count. I keep talking to you in a minute. This happens to me on video calls all the time, because I have quite a few people in my life who I'm close with, but they don't live very close to me, which is unfortunate, but I will have video calls with them, and then when I'm in a call with them, I'll knit or I'll crochet. Inevitably, there will be the moment where I have to count, so I have to be like, please be quiet for a minute, and then it's awkwardly quiet for a minute while I count. Then we can keep talking, so essentially you're experiencing the same thing now. Oh, also, I figured out what year this magazine was published. I don't know why I was like looking on the front page of the magazine for a year, obviously, as you would. but I couldn't find one anywhere. It just had like a price and some pictures and some words, but no year. They say all of the like who printed it and who wrote it and who was responsible for what and when it was published. It's just randomly on page 12, which I don't know, maybe that's normal for magazines, but I don't use magazines ever. So I didn't know that, and I found out it was made in 1999, so vintage magazine, older than me actually. But yeah, not that old either. But it's very cool. I don't know, it's kind of fun that these things survive so long and that you can, like, that the craft never really changes. I feel like everything's always changing, and it's so nice to have something in your life that, you know, your grandma knows how to do and your mom knows how to do and you know how to do, and it always stays the same, and you can use all the same supplies and all the same things. You can actually find some of these patterns on Ravelry still. The publisher has like a page there, or the design team at least, and some of these Diana magazines are where the patterns from them are available on Ravelry, or at least they like exist so you can link them. This one did not, unfortunately, so this specific magazine is not there, and my specific doily is not there, but there are a lot of these doilies and stuff on their page. I can put a link in the description. It's really cool. Yeah, I don't know, I'm having fun with this. So it's some days later, and I've made quite a bit of progress on my doily. It's very large right now, and I will say that it is not the most enjoyable thing to make to me, simply because it requires a very weird amount of focus, and also I have a relatively tight deadline, which is not that fun. For the focus thing, I feel like there's some, not necessarily whole items, but parts of items where you make them and you have to like figure out what you're doing and pay a lot of attention to it. So you like sit in complete silence and you stare at your chart or stare at your pattern or whatever, and you just figure out what to do. And I wouldn't say that this is so difficult that that would be necessary. So if you just sit in silence and do this, it's kind of boring. But also, it is difficult enough that when I sit and I have a movie playing or a video playing or someone on a video call with me, I tend to make mistakes on this, and that's not very enjoyable because there's really no way you can fix them. You know, if you make like a more solid piece, like, I don't know, sweater, if you make like, or if you miss a stitch, you just like sneakily invent one, you know, you like don't go back and frog it and try to fix your mistake, you just kind of hide it. But for this, if you miss a stitch, there's no way you can hide it because everything is so part of the pattern that you would just see any irregularities in it. Or if you accidentally fill a box that's not supposed to be filled, there's really no, this like, it fucks up the pattern and it's not symmetrical anymore, so you have to go back and you have to fix it. And it happens quite a bit to me that, I don't know, I miss a stitch here or there, and then I don't realize until the next round when I come back to the same spot and I notice that I don't have enough boxes or something like that. And then I have to frog back the entire round, or sometimes even 2 or 3. And for a doily of this size, it's not fun to frog back that much, because usually it's like a day of work. And I already told you that I made this smaller so that I would be able to finish it sooner. However, last night I looked at my chart and I realized how many increase rows I had left and how many, like, that I still need to do all the triangles and the whole border on it. So I decided there was no way that was happening until Easter, and I went back to the drawing board, essentially, the drawing board being Excel, and I made it even smaller. So I changed the design on it again. I added like a new leaf or a new flower to it as well that I just put there because I moved things around and then it looked empty in that spot. So I did that. And now I have 3 more rows of increases left, or I'm on 1 of them now, and then after that I have 2 more. And then I just have to do the triangles on the sides and the finishings, which will still be quite a lot of work, but I'm relatively confident I can get that done in the amount of time that I have. Another reason why I decided to go back and make it smaller is that it uses up insane amounts of this thread. I am so confused about how much crochet thread you need for certain projects, because some years back I went to the store and I wanted to make a doily, so I bought 200-gram balls of crochet thread, which is quite a lot. And then I made my doily and I realized I barely used any of it. So that's when I realized you apparently don't need a lot of crochet thread to do things. And that was the impression I was living under until I started my mesh pullover some weeks back, and I used up like crazy amounts of the crochet thread, way more than I anticipated. And now I'm doing this and the same thing is happening. I'm still using up like a lot of it. And at first I took like 3 balls of the thread from my stash, but I did go back to my stash and I found 2 more balls that looked similar enough in weight and color, and I can't see any difference personally, so I think it should be fine. But this is my last one. I have lots of these empty paper rolls laying around now because I used up so many balls of this, which is good. My goal with this was using up the crochet thread that I had in stash, but I was not anticipating it to be using up that much that quickly. So yeah, another reason why I made this smaller was that I realized I wouldn't have enough thread to finish it anyways. And since the point of this was destashing, I didn't really want to go to the store and get more of it. Yeah, so I'll try to finish my increases. We'll see how that turns out. I guess we'll see each other again when I'm starting the triangles. It is a day later and we've made quite some progress. I have finished the entire big square, so all of the increase rounds are done, which I'm very grateful for. And I've also already worked 2 of these triangle tips. So I've done this one, as you can see, and the one opposite of that one. And I haven't measured what the circumference is actually. We can do that together right now while I keep talking. I'm very curious to find out. So if you remember, the pattern originally said that this doily would be 64 centimeters in diameter. However, I have not only used a thread that was quite a bit heavier than what was suggested in the pattern, but I've also adapted the pattern twice to be smaller because I was running out of time and out of thread. So we'll see where we ended up. We are at 85 centimeters, even though I made it smaller. So it's definitely more of like a small tablecloth than it is a doily at this point. Maybe for like a centerpiece or something, you could put big vase in the middle. At least that's how I imagine it laying on my grandma's table. Yeah, so I have 2 of the little tips missing, which I think I can finish today. And then we have the border, which I hope to finish tomorrow morning, and then I only have to block it, which honestly I also don't know how I'm going to do that. If you remember, oh wow, it got very sunny, can't even see you anymore. If you remember, I started out finding 3 of these little balls of crochet thread from my stash that were probably not from the same brand or the same color or anything, but they looked similar enough to me that I was confident they, you know, wouldn't look different if I used them in a doily. So I used up all of those. Then I went back to my stash and I found 2 more balls of crochet thread where I thought, okay, these are similar enough to the first 3 that I wouldn't necessarily notice the difference. But at that point I was like definitely out of similar crochet threads. I had 2 more balls that I bought myself some years back that were the same color kind of, but like 3/4 of the thickness of my thread that I was using. Then I had a couple of balls of an off-white that was definitely noticeably a different color. And then I had this one ball that I now started using. It is the right color, but the thread is way thinner. and I've experimented a bit with either using the crochet thread I had bought some years back. I used this one, I used a combination of both, and I set out on holding this double and that's giving me the results that are closest to what my original thread looked like. It's looking like I can actually finish this, which is very exciting, and I think I'm gonna work one more of the tips right now, and then I'll probably do one more tonight when I'm in a call, and then border tomorrow, and then hopefully blocking sometime. Okay, we're moving at light speed. It is the next day. It is a lot darker outside for some reason. We switched weather completely. It's about to rain, I think. So unfortunately I'm not as bright and sunny anymore, but I'm happy because we're almost done. I actually finished both of my little triangles yesterday, so only the border missing, or parts of the border, because I already started. I woke up bright and early this morning, and I'm doing picot edges. So fun, so many of them. We have switched threads once again, because this is the state of the thread, the thinner thread I was holding double. So you can already see the paper roll through it, and now that I've made that many mistakes with estimating how much thread I would need, I know that that's a sign for it almost being empty and probably not being enough to make a border with it, especially since I was holding it double. So I decided that this would not be enough for the entire border, and since the border is like a different part of the doily anyways, and I don't really mind switching to a different thread that is maybe even noticeably different for that, I switched to the one I bought. There are instructions for how to do it in the pattern, and they were fairly easy to figure out for this part with the different design. The problem with this pattern though is that it tells you which stitches to work, but it never tells you in which stitches to put them in, like where to work them. So, you know, when you crochet, you like have to insert your needle into the stitch that you want the new stitch to be above, I guess, but it never tells you which stitch that is, which was fine for like this part with the filet crochet design because it's just boxes, so it's like it's pretty clear what to work into where. But I already had trouble with that like right in the beginning when I was starting the project and doing this like loop in the middle, and also for this part with the different design, it also didn't really tell me where to work my stitches into. I just figured both of these things out by looking at the photo that came with it. But for these triangular edges, even with staring at the photo and the instructions, I could not figure out where they wanted me to put the stitches. So I decided to just go with an option that looked like what is in the photo and ignore the written instructions, which is working out fine, I guess. Looks like this now, so I don't know. It has the border, it has picot edges. I don't know what more they could possibly want from me. I've also decided to try steam blocking this instead of wet blocking it, because I do have an iron, and I hope maybe if I put like a wet cloth over it and I iron it, it might turn out in a way that it actually lays flat. I don't know, but I'm gonna try that because it would be much faster and involve a much slower drying process than me wet blocking this. Because I don't really have like a blocking mat or anything where I could pin this down. So I know that last time I just put heavy books on it, but it was also like a small doily, barely bigger than my hand. So this is, I don't know how else I would do this. So I'm gonna try the steam blocking, and if that doesn't work, I'm gonna wait until I'm at my parents' house and try to figure out something there. But yeah, that's the plan for now. And now you get to watch me work little picot edges. Yay! Good for you. Maybe hold them hook the right way, that would help. So we're finished, the doily's done, and I'm very happy about that. This was a bit of a stressful project, I will say. First of all, because I was in a bit of a time crunch with it. I don't know, I just didn't think to start doing a project for my grandma earlier on, and now I have the rest of the week to spend with some people who are dear to me and who are coming to visit. So that's great, but yeah, it definitely took away from my enjoyment of this project, because I was like always planning and worrying that I was behind, and it was just not very enjoyable, especially. And this brings me to the second reason why this project specifically wasn't that fun. I think I enjoy doing filet crochet in general, but I will say that it is very hard to hide your mistakes in filet crochet. So if you have a more solid piece of fabric that you're creating, you can kind of, I don't know, decrease a stitch if you have one too much, or you can add one if you missed one, and it's not necessarily very noticeable. But for filet crochet, because there's such a stark contrast between the full and the empty boxes, there's no way you can like cheat your way into hiding your mistakes. So quite a few times during this project, I thought I was kind of making progress and getting into a direction where I thought I could finish this in time, and then I realized there was a mistake and I had to throw back like an entire day's worth of progress. So I didn't have the most fun making this. I'm still very pleased with the results. I really enjoy doilies. I don't know, they're not necessarily a very modern thing to make. I don't feel like I see many people making them. I think my grandma used to mainly do doilies because she had a lot of magazines on them and a lot of crochet thread. But I don't know, I think they look very pretty. I would like to incorporate some into my life when it's fitting. I like it. I think my grandma will like it. Actually, I'm sure my grandma will like it. My grandma likes everything I do. She's like my #1 fan. She always gets so excited when I make something for her. I hope you like it. And if you do, please give this video a like. Subscribe so you can come back and see me make another random thing that I haven't decided on yet. But there will be another one. I can promise you that. So I hope you have a good rest of your day. I hope you enjoy working on whatever you're working on, and that you never have to frog back. And I will catch you next time.